What's going on, everybody? Adam Bomb here, aka Cousin It, and today I'm letting my quarantine hair flow free, and we are talking songwriting and the creative process. Let's jump right into it. Okay, so I know these videos have been a little bit out of order so far. The first one was an unboxing of my new Jackson. The second one was some guitar warm-ups for you guys to try at home. And this one is going to be about songwriting and the creative process. And to go right along with that, my creative process usually is that I just kind of do stuff when the inspiration hits me. I write songs when the inspiration hits me. I make these videos when the inspiration is hitting me. And I can't really control it. It's just one of those things. When I sit down and I try to write a song or try to make a video, when I have like an idea in my head and I sit down and I try to do that, a lot of times it doesn't turn out as good as I want it to. And I just find for me personally that my best art comes out when when it's just the spur of the moment type thing. So there you go. That's my first tip, is to try and figure out what your creative process is, what works for you. Does it work for you to just think of an event or a person or a place or a thing and sit down and try to write a song about it? Or does it work to just write a guitar, put a bunch of guitar parts first and then try to put a melody over that? Does it work to do what I do and just, kind of wait until the angels are singing to me? I don't know what it is, man. I'll be like in the car, randomly driving to Walmart or something. And all of a sudden I'll have to pull over because song lyrics are coming to me. And I don't know, it's the weirdest thing, but that's how I work. So figure out how you work. That is my first tip when it comes to songwriting. So do that. What else are we going to talk about? Okay, so I've been songwriting since I was maybe 13 years old or something like that. Basically since I picked up a guitar and I could play a guitar, I could play a song all the way through on the guitar. That was when I started trying to write my own guitar riffs and write my own, lyrics and stuff like that. And so I've had a lot of practice. I've just been doing it on my own for a long time. I didn't really have a lot of training in that department. I've had more music lessons when it comes to guitar and drums and stuff than I have songwriting lessons, I guess. But I did take some good classes in college. When I was in college, I took some poetry classes, some writing classes, some literature classes, some short story classes, some stuff like that. Took a lot of English courses when I was first going to college. It wasn't what I ended up, going to school for, but I did take a lot of English courses when I first started going, and that helped a lot. So I definitely suggest that you do that if you have the means. There's plenty of free courses online for stuff like that. So yeah, go and take some poetry and some short story courses. And the reason that's important is because, a song basically is like a short story, right? I think a lot of people miss this a lot, even though it seems super obvious, but I think you really want a song to have a clear beginning, middle, and end point. Like, you want it to be a narrative where you have a main character or a main person or place or thing or whatever it is. You have a main thing, and then it moves to some other point throughout the story. And, it obviously doesn't have to move a lot because a song is only a couple minutes long and you only have a few minutes to do that. But, that's what a song is. It's a collection of, riffs and lyrics that are supposed to make you feel a certain way. And are supposed to make you feel as though, there was some sort of transition from beginning to end. So that's something really important to keep in mind as well when you're writing a song. Don't just, again, and please don't think that anything I'm saying here is 100% absolute. These are all just tips and guidelines that I suggest you follow. Because when it comes to songwriting, you should always be trying to break all the rules in the most creative way you possibly can. But there are some general rules that you should try to follow most of the time, and then when you are feeling creative enough to break outside of those rules in a cool, creative way, then go for it and do it. But again, these are all just guidelines. These are not things that you should never ever do under any circumstances. So anyway, keep that in mind. Moving right along, let's keep it going here. I'm going to give you 5 don'ts, 5 things that you should try to avoid when you're songwriting. So these are just things that I've picked up over the years. They're also things that I've picked up from watching, from watching other people, other people's videos, other people's just, listening to other people's music in general. So yeah, let's get to it. Number one. All right, number one is cliches, and I cannot stress this one enough. Do your absolute 100% best to avoid cliches, man. And I'm talking about lyrics and riffs too. I mean, there are riffs that are very cliche and very overdone and used, but more specifically, I'm talking about lyrics for this one. Things like "it cuts like a knife," or "you set my world on fire." Fire is one for me that I tend to use a lot. I tend to use fire to describe everything that's intense. Whenever anything's intense in one of my songs, it's on fire somehow. There's just stuff like that. Things, common phrases that people use a lot when they're speaking, as well as just like common metaphors and stuff that, people use a lot in normal speech and stuff like that. Really try to avoid those. And it's tough. It's really tough. I feel like it's a pretty obvious thing. Again, like you wouldn't, if you were trying to write the best song you could, you would try to avoid cliches. That's pretty much common sense, right? Like you want to say what you're trying to say in a cool, unique, personal way. So do your best to avoid cliches at all costs. And again, these are not 100%. Like if you're writing a song, I don't know, for example, if you're writing a song about how much you hate cliches, then sure, go ahead and use 20 cliches in that song. But you know what I mean? That would be a cool creative way to break that cycle, to break those rules. But for the most part, try to avoid those as much as possible. All right, number two. Now, the second thing to avoid when you're writing songs goes right along with the first one. I even mentioned it in the first one on accident. But the second one is recycled riffs. So just like recycled, language and lyrics and sayings, you don't want to recycle riffs, everyone knows the Smoke on the Water riff, okay? That's probably, the number one overly used riff of all time. And because, it's just like a basic blues scale riff, it's hard to avoid using some of the same riffs in your songs as other people, but it's also pretty easy to just add your own flavor to it, add your own flair to it, change one note on a scale, change one chord in a progression, just do simple little things like that. Change the strumming pattern, change the way you sing something, change the voice in which you're singing something, change there's a million little things you can do to easily avoid, commonly used melodies and riffs. And I don't think I really need to say much more about that. I mean, pretty much everyone who writes songs on a regular basis knows that, the purpose should be to try and make it original, try and make it unique, try and make it a slightly different melody than people have heard before. And like I said, I know that can be hard. I know there's only a finite amount of frets on a guitar. There's only so many notes you can hit with your voice. But, there's always cool little things that you can do. And I'm not going to tell you what those are, because that's on you to figure out. If you're going to be a great musician, then your goal should be to, create your own sound and your own voice and your own style. So anyway, that's all I'm going to say for that one. Let's move right along to number 3. 3. The next piece of advice I have for you would be, don't be a try-hard, man. Don't try too hard. This is something that has caused me to waste countless hours writing songs, man. Just don't try too hard. You're gonna write the best songs when you're in a good mood, when you've gotten enough sleep, when all that good stuff. So just don't try too hard. I can't stress this one enough. Again, just like the first one, it's very important. Make sure your mind is relaxed. Make sure you're in a good place. And I mean that's not always true. I guess sometimes good songs come from bad places, and that's especially true with metal and punk and a lot of the stuff that I listen to. But so, but just don't try too hard. Even if you're upset and you got great stuff coming out, don't sit there and try to, hammer it into the ground. If you wrote a verse and a chorus and you can't get the next verse just isn't there, just put it aside. Put it aside, come back later. And I promise you that will help you a lot. And I there's not too much to say about that one. Just don't be a tryhard. Okay? All right, number 4. This next one's pretty easy too. Don't have a ton of stuff to say about it, but it was important enough that I wanted to include it in here. Number 4 is don't spend too much time on one thing. And this kind of goes along with the last one, but it was important enough that I split them up into 2. And yeah, I mean, again, there's not too much I need to say about it. It's pretty straightforward. Just don't spend too much time on one thing. Again, you're going to waste a lot of time and energy into first drafts of things, and that's what's important to remember with this one. Is you can always go back and edit. You can always go back and change things. It's kind of better to just try and get it all out. Like usually if I'm really stuck, I'll put it down and I'll move aside. But if I feel like I can at least get something out, if I can get a first draft out and on paper, I try to do that, and then I'll put it aside and move on to the next thing and come back to that later. And a lot of times I find when I do that when I come back and I've had time to, subconsciously process the ideas and stuff that I was trying to get out in that song, that they will suddenly be there after I come back and do it for the second time or third time or whatever it is. So yeah, that's number 4. We're going right along to number 5. Okay, and the 5th and final one is do not be a perfectionist. Again, goes along with some of the other stuff we were talking about, but deserves its own category. Being a perfectionist it's hard to avoid in music. It really is, especially for me. I don't know how it is for you guys, but man, when I write a song, it's my baby, It really is like raising a child, and you see it grow, and you see it improve, and you see it change and develop, and it's great. But you really have to learn to detach yourself from that kind of thinking as much as possible. I mean, on the one hand, it's good to think like that because you want the song to be the best that it can be. On the other hand, it's going to be much more beneficial to you to go for quantity over quality when it comes to songwriting, especially when you're first starting out and you're just kind of, getting the feel for what your style is and all that stuff. It's really better to just try and pump out a bunch of songs, and then you can go back and sift through your catalog and say, which ones do I really like? Which ones do I want to keep developing? Which ones deserve to be developed? Which ones are really good but aren't quite, to the level you want them to be at? And so I think that's really important with any kind of art, not just with songwriting, but with any kind of art, with anything you do in life. I mean, any kind of trade or profession, you want to strive for perfection, but know that perfection is never really possible. So, you just have to know that, and you have to be able to balance, how attached you get to your songs. And I know it's hard. I know you want to show them to people. I mean, some of us are nervous about it, I guess. I mean, depends on your personality. But I mean, we want to get it out in the world. We want to show it to people. That's why we make art, is to show it to other people and to, to get a reaction from them out of it, to see how they interpret it. And that's another great point on this one too, is you never know how people are going to react to a song. There could be a song that you personally didn't think was that great, but somebody else really connects to, and for some reason the lyrics, spoke to them at that time in their life or whatever. So you never know. Just try a million different things. Go for quality or go for quantity over quality. Try a bunch of different stuff. See what you're good at. See what works for you. And don't be a perfectionist. Okay? So that's all I got for you today. Hope you enjoyed my thoughts on songwriting and the creative process, and a few tips and tricks to get you through songwriting. Yeah, that's all I got. I'm out of breath. I had a lot of fun making this video, and I will catch you guys next time. Have a wonderful day.